There are moments when, in the middle of a noisy crowd, you realize you are not truly hearing anything, only the voices clashing, each trying to claim the right, each straining to overpower the rest. Yet, in a quiet corner, someone simply sits and observes, needing neither to seize the floor nor to prove a point, and still grasps the entire picture. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes a rare form of strength. The Stoics believe that true power does not lie in controlling others, but in the ability to control oneself. When you pause to observe, to listen, and to feel, you are no longer swept along by unconscious reactions. You become the one who deliberately chooses how to think, how to feel, and how to act. This power needs no noise to be recognized. It shows itself through clarity and composure, even when everything around you is in turmoil. And that is where we begin our journey today, exploring the art of observation and gratitude as a way of life. 1. Silence is not weakness, it is vision. Silence is often mistaken for shyness or a lack of confidence. Yet in Stoic philosophy, it is a sign of inner strength. This strength does not shout, does not seek attention, but stands firm like a mountain against the storm. The silent person is not without words. They simply know that not every situation demands an immediate reaction. They choose their moment and their words, like an archer patiently waiting for the perfect instant to release the single, precise arrow. This is the vision that silence brings, the ability to see beyond the moment and grasp the greater whole. In the modern world, where the pace of communication is relentless, people are swept into responding quickly just to prove they are present. This rush often sends words into the air without thought, leading to misunderstanding, conflict, or the erosion of credibility. Silence breaks that cycle. When you pause, observe, and listen, you create space for information to be absorbed, emotions to settle, and thoughts to take shape. This is not passive delay, but the necessary preparation to act with accuracy and wisdom. The Stoics viewed silence as a form of strategic space, a place where you gather facts, analyze the situation, and weigh the impact of your words before they are spoken. Marcus Aurelius advised that we should guard our words so that when we do speak, they carry the weight of truth and awareness. This requires a vision beyond instinctive reaction, toward action rooted in reason and core values. Silence is also a tool for freeing yourself from the grip of fleeting emotions. When confronted with provocation or pressure, an immediate reaction often springs from hurt, pride, or fear. But by choosing silence, you create a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, you can reassess, weigh the consequences, and decide whether to answer at all. It is in that space that you reclaim mastery over yourself, rather than surrendering it to circumstances or to others. Silence offers another advantage. It makes you a sharper observer. Without the distraction of rehearsing your reply, you can give full attention to what is unfolding. You notice the slight shift in a glance, the hesitation in a voice, the mismatch between words and actions. These are signals the hasty responder misses, and they can hold more truth than any explanation. Thus, silence is not weakness, but proof of confidence and inner discipline. It shows you do not need to prove your worth by the volume of your words, but allow it to show in the quality of your observation and response. In a world where noise can bury the truth, silence becomes the tool to strip away the unnecessary and focus on what matters most. When you understand and practice this, you not only avoid needless mistakes, but also sharpen your decision-making, protect your mental energy, and act with clarity. 2. Listening is illumination. In Stoic thought, Listening is not merely a communication skill, but a conscious act that opens the door to another's true world. Most people listen only to reply, to find their moment to cut in, or to defend their stance. But the listening the Stoics speak of is entirely different. It is the state of setting aside the urge to argue, of ceasing to prepare your answer, and placing your full attention on the words, the tone, the rhythm, and even the silences of the other person. In that moment, you are not just hearing sound, you are reading the message beneath the words, the message of emotion, intention, and unspoken truth. In the space of true listening, the self is set aside. You are no longer waiting for your turn to speak, but become a clear mirror reflecting what is happening. Your silence becomes the ground upon which others reveal themselves fully. And in that openness, much that was hidden comes to light. A sentence may give information, but the way it is spoken, what is left unsaid, or a tiny shift in tone, can carry deeper meaning. Listening is how you collect these fragments to see the full picture. Deep listening is also a lesson in humility. It requires you to accept that you do not know everything, that your view is only a fragment of the truth. The Stoics saw this as a doorway to wisdom, for only when you acknowledge the limits of your own perception can you fully receive the knowledge and experience of others. This humility does not weaken you, it strengthens you, for your decisions will rest on a more complete foundation. Listening is also a means of forging deeper connection. When someone feels truly heard, they tend to open up and share more. This lets you reach the deeper layer of the matter, where real motives, unspoken fears, or hidden desires reside. For the Stoic, understanding the root is the key to responding rightly, rather than merely treating the surface of the problem. Moreover, listening helps you understand yourself. When you pause to truly hear without rushing to react, you notice the emotional reflexes forming within you, the irritation, the defensiveness, the pride. This awareness is your chance to adjust, to prevent emotion from driving action unconsciously. Thus, listening is a strategic act, allowing you to gather more information while maintaining control over your own responses. It is a light illuminating not only others, but the unseen corners within yourself. When this habit is trained, you will enter every conversation with calm, openness, and sharpness, ready to understand before seeking to be understood. And that is the foundation for decisions that are wise, steady, and far less prone to error. 3. Guard your words to guard your power. In Stoic philosophy, words are not only a means of communication, they are a mirror of the mind and the character of the speaker. Every sentence you speak carries weight, not only for those who hear it, but for you as well. When you speak too often or without thought, you dilute the value of your words. But when you hold them, choosing timing and content with care, you build credibility and weight behind your voice. This power does not come from volume or quantity, but from the precision, relevance, and meaning contained within. Guarding your words does not mean complete silence, but the deliberate selection of what is worth saying. The Stoics believed words should be spoken when they serve a clear purpose to clarify, to guide thought, or to lift the spirit. Conversely, if they are only to fill the air, satisfy the ego, or react to passing emotion, they more often cause harm than a value. Guarding your words becomes a form of inner discipline, sparing your energy from pointless or damaging exchanges. Another crucial aspect is emotional control. Words spoken in anger, fear, or arrogance rarely reflect the whole truth. They mirror the emotional state of the moment. When you pause, breathe, and consider before speaking, you separate emotion from action. This makes your words more deliberate, less likely to wound or spark needless conflict. It is also a way to preserve relationships and maintain the respect of others. Guarding your words also means protecting trust and confidentiality. In many situations, the ability to keep sensitive information or to refrain from idle talk signals reliability. Those who can be trusted with silence earn respect not only for their wisdom, but for the sense of safety they create for others. They know that once trust is broken, restoring it is difficult, sometimes impossible. Over time, guarding your words becomes a strategy for building a strong, personal image. When people see that your words are thoughtful, constructive, and grounded in understanding, they listen more closely. This makes every time you speak an opportunity to create real influence. In contrast, if you often speak carelessly or without accuracy, your voice loses power, no matter how loud it may be. Thus, to guard your words is to guard your power. This power is built on discipline, awareness, and the ability to value quality over quantity. In a world full of noise, your choice of when to speak and when to remain silent is not just a skill, it is a declaration of self-mastery. Practicing this not only elevates your personal credibility, but ensures your voice remains sharp, meaningful, and worth hearing. 4. Observe to separate truth from illusion. In Stoic philosophy, observation is not merely the act of seeing with the eyes, but a process of deep perception grounded in alertness, objectivity, and patience. The Stoics understood that the world always contains both truth and falsehood, both essence and facade, and that what appears before us does not always reflect reality. To discern what is genuine from what is merely appearance requires training in constant observation, avoiding hasty conclusions, and resisting the pull of first impressions. The key to Stoic observation is attention to repetition and consistency. Words can be arranged, images can be polished, but repeated actions and habits are what reveal true character. Observe long enough, and you will detect patterns, chains of behavior, reactions, or choices people display unconsciously. These patterns will show you which values are real and which are just a coat of paint. Observation also demands setting aside personal bias and emotion to see things clearly. When driven by emotion, you are easily drawn into unimportant details or blind to signals that contradict your desires. The Stoic trains this detachment by reminding themselves that their task is to discover truth, not to find evidence that confirms what they already believe. Such objectivity makes observation more accurate and fair. Another vital element is noticing what is not said or shown. Silence, pauses, or omissions often reveal more than direct statements. This is why the Stoics valued observation that engages not only the eyes, but also intuition and sensitivity to context. Recognizing these subtleties allows you to uncover layers of meaning others miss. Observation to separate truth from illusion applies not only to others or to external situations, but also to oneself. Thoughts, emotions, and motives can be clouded by illusion or self-justification. The Stoic spends time observing themselves, identifying which motives are genuine and which are surface excuses. This honesty prevents them from getting trapped in self-made narratives and allows them to align behavior with core values. When you persist in this kind of observation, you develop a deeper vision, one that sees not only the surface but the currents beneath. You become harder to deceive with flashy appearances or skillful words, and you avoid making decisions based on incomplete information. This forms the foundation for living with awareness and acting with wisdom, for only by seeing the truth can you choose rightly and securely. 5. Silence as a tool of freedom. In the Stoic view, silence is not merely the absence of sound, but a deliberate state that frees you from the control of external forces. When you choose silence, you give yourself the power not to be swept into the reaction patterns of others or the pressure of the moment. This is a form of mental freedom, where you are not compelled to respond according to expectation or provocation, but preserve the space to decide your own response. Such silence is not avoidance, but a conscious choice to guard inner control. The Stoics believe that true freedom lies not in doing whatever you wish, but in not being ruled by impulsive emotion or external pressure. In silence, you create a pause long enough to consider to see the whole rather than a single slice of the matter. This pause is like a bridge between initial feeling and final action, allowing you to cross without falling into the pit of haste. In that stillness, you can examine the consequences of words, weigh the true value of responding, and judge whether the reaction serves your long-term purpose. Silence also releases you from unnecessary cycles of conflict. In tense situations, many feel compelled to reply instantly to assert position or defend their view. In reality, the very need to react at once locks them into passivity, for they are moving to the rhythm set by others. Silence, by contrast, places you in the role of the one in control, the one who can decide when and how to engage, or whether to withdraw entirely. This is the clearest expression of freedom of choice, a core Stoic value. Moreover, silence creates room for deeper observation. When you do not speak, you are not distracted by preparing a reply and can focus entirely on sensing, listening, and analyzing the situation. This sharpens your ability to detect motives, conflicts, or hidden intentions. The knowledge gained in silence is often clearer and less distorted than that gained in the rush of conversation. Above all, silence grants a steady peace. It frees you from the pressure to have an answer ready, from the fear of being judged for your words, and from the pull of endless debate. In stillness, you realize that not responding immediately does not diminish your worth. In fact, it elevates your inner authority. This is the power that comes from self-mastery, and once you hold it, you become far harder to manipulate. Thus, silence is a tool of freedom. Freedom from pressure, from conflict, and from the sway of fleeting emotions. When practiced consciously, it not only protects inner peace, but strengthens your ability to decide wisely, guided by reason and your core values. 6. Gratitude as the compass of the mind. In Stoic philosophy, gratitude is not a fleeting emotion felt when life goes well, but a guiding principle that keeps the mind steady amid change. Like a compass that always points north, gratitude helps you maintain inner direction regardless of external shifts. In practicing gratitude, you remind yourself that there are still things of value in life, even when others are missing or not as desired. This awareness builds the foundation for calm, clarity, and inner strength. The modern world constantly sends the message that you are not enough, that you need more to be happy. Endless comparison, expectation, and craving make the mind lose its course, always focused on what is missing rather than on what is present. Gratitude is the means to reverse that pull. When you deliberately acknowledge and value what already exists, your mind learns to focus on abundance instead of lack. This is not self-comfort, but a conscious adjustment of perspective to see the full picture. Gratitude also acts as an anchor, keeping the mind from being swept away by negative emotion. In difficult times, it is easy to spiral into disappointment and pessimism. But if you have trained yourself to seek and record what is worth appreciating, you will quickly find points of light in even the darkest circumstances. This does not erase the difficulty, but it changes how you face it, allowing you to stand firm and act from reason instead of despair. From a Stoic perspective, gratitude is also a reminder of the limits of what we can control. We cannot decide everything that will happen, but we can decide how to see it. By focusing on what remains, instead of obsessing over what is lost or not yet attained, you exercise the one control that is truly yours, the control over interpretation and response. This turns gratitude into a life strategy, not just a pleasant feeling. Gratitude broadens perspective as well, making you aware of the connections between seemingly small elements that are essential to life. In recognizing their value, you become more mindful of your choices and actions, knowing that everything is linked and has its effect. A mind guided by gratitude avoids impulsive decisions, choosing instead actions that align with core values. Thus, gratitude not only makes you feel better, it serves as a mental compass, ensuring that in any circumstance, you stay on course. It keeps you from losing yourself in the endless race of ambition and strengthens your ability to see the world with fairness and clarity. When gratitude becomes the compass of your mind, you will always find your way back to balance, no matter how far life takes you. 7. Reframing adversity. In Stoic philosophy, adversity is not seen as an absolute obstacle, but as an inevitable part of the human journey. What makes the difference is not the nature of the adversity itself, but how we interpret it. To reframe a situation is to shift perspective so that we can see the value hidden within, rather than focusing solely on loss or difficulty. This is not denial of reality, but a deliberate method of redefining the meaning of events so they become material for growth. When something happens, the mind often reacts by instinct, either resisting or complaining. Such reactions drain energy on matters beyond our control and cause us to miss the chance to find a new direction. Reframing is the shift from reaction to intention, from being pulled along by events to guiding the narrative within your own mind. The Stoics believe that once you change how you see, your entire experience of adversity changes with it. Effective reframing begins by separating events from judgments. What happens is neutral. It is our interpretation that generates positive or negative emotion. When you drop initial labels like terrible or unjust, you gain the chance to view the situation more objectively. From there, you can identify elements to learn from or use to strengthen yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that what stands in the way can become the way forward if we choose to see it rightly. Reframing adversity also means searching for meaning within hardship. This meaning is not always clear at first, but with patient observation, you will discover the hidden lessons, discipline in perseverance, adaptability, or the chance to reevaluate life's priorities. The clearer the meaning, the easier it is to accept reality and turn adversity into fuel rather than a barrier. Another benefit of reframing is that it helps preserve calm in the face of challenge. When you view adversity as a natural part of life, the mind is less startled and less likely to fall into crisis. This composure allows for clearer thinking and wiser decisions. It is also an expression of self-mastery, the ability not to let circumstances define your emotions and actions. Thus, reframing adversity is not just a psychological technique, but a principle for living that maintains mental strength and clarity of direction even in the hardest moments. When practiced often, you will find adversity is no longer an enemy to avoid, but a silent teacher, training you in resilience, wisdom, and inner freedom. 8. Seeing value before success. One of the central principles of Stoic philosophy is the ability to recognize value even before the final result appears. People often validate effort only when it has produced visible achievement, but this approach risks missing the true meaning of the journey. The Stoic understands that value does not only exist at the destination, but is present in every step, every moment of training, and every challenge overcome. When you learn to see value before success, you sustain motivation and perseverance even through the hardest phases. This mindset frees the mind from dependence on factors beyond your control, such as the recognition of others or tangible rewards. When you focus on the intrinsic worth of the process, you are no longer pressured by time or comparisons to another's pace. You understand that each step forward, however small, is meaningful accumulation, and that the process itself is already an achievement. This creates a firm psychological foundation, enabling you to keep moving without being shaken by temporary setbacks. Seeing value before success also trains patience, a core Stoic virtue. Instead of restlessly seeking immediate results, you learn to appreciate gradual changes and trust the process. This patience is not passive acceptance, but the ability to maintain steady, focused effort even when there is no obvious proof of success. It is the key to achieving great goals that require long time frames and endurance. Another benefit of recognizing value early is that it nurtures gratitude and contentment in the present. When you are aware that you are growing, learning, and becoming stronger through each experience, you can feel fulfilled even if the final result is still ahead. This state of mind keeps you optimistic and protects you from falling into the trap of chronic dissatisfaction. From a Stoic viewpoint, seeing value before success is also a safeguard against disappointment if the outcome is not what you hoped. If you have already found meaning in the process, success becomes an added reward rather than the sole measure of worth. This creates a sense of freedom, as you are no longer bound entirely to results that others might judge or acknowledge. Thus, seeing value before success is not just a positive way of thinking, but a profound way of living, one that preserves inner strength, protects commitment, and allows you to fully enjoy the journey. When you live by this principle, you realize that every step, however small, is an essential part of the larger victory, and that true success begins with how you see the present. 9. Retraining attention. In Stoic philosophy, attention is regarded as a precious resource, determining the quality of thought, emotion, and action. The modern world, with its endless stream of stimuli competing for our focus, makes it easy for the mind to become scattered and reactive. Retraining attention is not merely learning to concentrate. It is the intentional act of directing it toward what truly matters while removing distractions from your sphere of influence. This is a skill that must be consciously exercised, like a muscle, to remain strong and agile. The essence of retraining attention begins with the awareness that we have full control over where we direct the mind. Each time you give something your attention, you are feeding and strengthening it in your life. Conversely, when you withdraw attention from the negative or the meaningless, their influence fades. The Stoics understood this principle and used it as a tool to keep the mind balanced. By intentionally focusing on values, goals, and actions that align with reason, you maintain a clear direction even when surrounded by chaos. Retraining attention also means cultivating the ability to notice when the mind starts to drift. Distraction is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it arises from idle thoughts or ungoverned emotions. When you build the habit of inner observation, you can detect this shift and bring your attention back to what is truly necessary. This is mindfulness in action, a core Stoic skill because it prevents you from being ruled by unseen forces. Another aspect of retraining attention is learning to prioritize. Not everything deserves your mental energy. Sorting and selecting allows you to concentrate your resources on what provides lasting value, rather than being pulled into momentary reactions. When attention is used with purpose, the mind becomes sharper, decisions more accurate, and emotions more stable. From the Stoic perspective, controlling attention is controlling life. What you consistently watch, listen to, and think about shapes your character and your actions. Retraining attention means choosing carefully the elements that nourish your mind, ensuring they align with your core values and aims. This is not a task that can be completed in a single day, but each moment you redirect your focus, you strengthen self-mastery and expand your capacity to live a life of awareness. 10. A grateful heart is an invisible armor. In Stoic philosophy, gratitude is not merely a moral virtue, but an inner defense mechanism against life's turbulence. When the mind is nourished by gratitude, it forms an invisible armor that shields you from the arrows of disappointment, anger, and anxiety. This armor is not the detachment of emotion, but the ability to maintain stability and clarity even when facing hardship or loss. It creates a mental buffer that allows you to see every event with calm and fairness. Gratitude functions as a perceptual filter, guiding your focus toward what is present and valuable instead of fixating on what is lost or yet to be achieved. When the mind is continually reminded of what is worth appreciating, it reduces the tendency to overreact to adversity. This does not mean ignoring difficulty, but approaching it with a different posture, the posture of one who can still see light even in darkness. It is this shift in perspective that builds inner resilience. A grateful heart also helps sustain emotional balance. While negative emotions often arise quickly and intensely, gratitude provides a counterforce that keeps you from being swept away entirely. Once the habit of gratitude is cultivated, the mind slows its reaction to negative triggers, creating space for reason to intervene. This reflects one of the Stoic core principles, using the gap between stimulus and response to choose actions guided by reason, not fleeting emotion. From a strategic standpoint, gratitude is also a tool for maintaining mental endurance over the long journey. When you value every step forward, no matter how small, you ease the pressure to achieve immediate results. This preserves long-term motivation and helps you avoid mental exhaustion. Just as armor not only blocks strikes but protects the body through the entire battle, gratitude safeguards the mind throughout life's journey. The unique quality of this armor is that it cannot be seen with the eyes, yet its impact is evident in every decision and action. Those who carry gratitude within are less prone to provocation, harder to manipulate, and less likely to be shaken by the opinions or actions of others. They preserve their inner independence because their values and emotions are not tied to external factors. Thus, a grateful heart is truly an invisible armor. It makes no noise, seeks no display, yet quietly protects you from needless harm and keeps you steady through all upheaval. When this armor is strengthened enough, you walk through life with a rare composure, no matter how chaotic the world around you becomes. From a personal perspective, I believe the principles just shared are not distant philosophy, but a practical foundation for living a steady and meaningful life. In today's fast-paced society, where pressure is present in every dimension, the ability to remain silent, to observe, to be grateful, and to direct one's attention is a survival skill. These not only help us respond mindfully to life's disruptions, but also shape the overall quality of our lives. I have come to see that inner strength does not come from overpowering others or avoiding difficulties, but from mastering the way we perceive and confront them. A person may lose possessions, miss opportunities, or face adversities that seem insurmountable, yet if they keep freedom in their mind and gratitude in their heart, they preserve their dignity and peace. That is the most enduring form of success, and it is a destination I believe each of us can reach if we practice these principles with consistency. If you found these reflections helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next content. Step out into the world with a clear mind and a steadfast heart, for you are the one who writes the story of your own life. See you in the next video.